Everybody, welcome back to another video. Today we are going to sit down and have brunch, and we're going to be discussing a case that's been on my mind. I've been studying it for 2 days just to discuss with you guys, so I'm super excited. Today we have pancakes, bacon, which I like the thick cut bacon because why would you eat bacon unless you ate the thick cut bacon? We have orange slices, and then we have some scrambled eggs with just a little bit of seasoning in them. So with that said, we're going to get started. Now, today's topic is going to be about nurses that kill. A little ahead of time notice if you are very sensitive to material like this. We are going to be talking about infants, and we're going to be talking very discreetly about them, though, because there's only one named in particular that we're actually going to discuss, which is the one that she was charged with. Besides that, if this is not your type of thing, I don't mind if you go ahead and hop off the channel before we get started, because I would appreciate a heads up if it wasn't my kind of thing. So, the woman in question's name is Janine Jones. Now, a little bit about Janine Jones. The only little bit of background that I could actually find, she was adopted when she was really young by a nightclub owner and his wife. And, they took care of her. They had a son already. She did really well, but her father ended up getting sick. She was really close to her father. He ended up getting sick, and he passed away from cancer, I believe. And then her brother was building a bomb one day and accidentally blew himself up, so he passed. And then the mother, after all of this happened, you guys, she became an alcoholic because she just literally, I guess she couldn't handle everything that happened, all these unfortunate events, you know? So it was really hard for Janine, I guess, in her younger years, which I can understand completely because no one knows how it is to go through hardships and deal with that kind of stuff. Y'all work with me while I cut this real quick. Should have did it off camera, sorry. So Janine's childhood was not really that great, you know? She grew up, she went to become a beautician. Excuse me. So she became a beautician in her younger years. But then there was like a high demand for nurses in the 70s, so she decided to go into nursing. It's really good. Oh, she was born July 13th, sorry you guys, in 1950. I should have put that out there in the beginning. Anyway, so she goes into nursing, and she got hired first at, I think, Bexar. I have notes. You'll have to forgive me. She got hired first at San Antonio Methodist Hospital is where her first gig was. So she went to San Antonio Methodist Hospital. But the coworkers there already caught on to some things that were going on. She had patients that were coming in like okay, like she worked in the pediatrics. She had patients that were coming in okay for like minor checkups, and then they would end up like really critical or dead. So, and they were only on her watch. And you know, hospitals keep really good track of all that kind of stuff, like the deaths and everything else that happens, because they're liable. So clearly they have to keep track of all this, right? So it was only happening with infants, though. They said that the co-workers thought that she was like loud, obnoxious. She always wanted to like be the hero too. Like there would be cases where she didn't kill them on purpose, so she would become the hero. And she was the only one that knew what was going on with these children. So of course she became the hero because she was like, oh, okay, they coded, but I was right here, or something like that. You know what I mean? I'm just summarizing for you guys. The series Nurses That Kill came from Netflix, by the way. Everything I'm telling you either came from Wikipedia or Netflix. So, back to her first nursing gig, she was remembered negatively by the staff. It didn't last very long. They weren't really understanding her methods of work, but they also didn't want any kind of like press and any kind of, like anything to happen to the hospital. So they didn't want to like report it necessarily. So they just let her go. Well, this leads to her second job, which was at Bexar County Hospital. But Right now, it's known as the University of San Antonio. So she was hired there. And this hospital was like a really respected hospital in the area. Like everyone went there because it was such a great hospital, and like there wasn't a lot of death tolls, and there wasn't, it had like a good rapport, and it was just a really well known hospital in the community. Well, Janine always targeted children because they were vulnerable. They didn't have a voice. They didn't have a say so. They couldn't speak up for themselves. They couldn't scream when they were in pain. Like, they couldn't cry out for somebody to come and get them. It was super, super sad. Like, she only targeted infants mostly, like, or like children under the age of, I would say, like 3. So, she worked in the ICU at the University of San Antonio for a little bit. And that's where a lot of stuff started happening, you guys. The children that were in the ICU were just completely helpless, like I said. So they didn't have a real say so. Like when the moms or the dads or the family members would go, like, let's just say, get a coffee, she would take advantage of the situation. What she was doing was she was injecting all these babies with like heparin or that's just one of the drugs. I can't pronounce a lot of them because I'm not a medical guru. However, she's injecting these babies with like all these drugs they didn't need, pretty much, because like they didn't have the issues to have these drugs. And when you're of a certain height and weight, and if you're on other medication or if you're not, all that matters when you're giving someone medication. That's why doctors really pick and choose like which medication they want to give you at what times. So the statistics at this hospital were able to, after looking into an investigation, they were able to prove that there was a 10.7 known chance that your child would die in the care of Janine on one of her shifts because of how many deaths. Okay, you guys, like they said, this hospital had 0 down here, like not 0, but very, very rare toll deaths right here, right? When Janine started working there, they said it just like skyrocketed, right? So she just like raised this toll rate to off the charts pretty much for this hospital because it was like keeping everything to a pretty average rate, So it's off the charts at this point with her working there. While most of the children died in her care, she did make sure at this hospital also that she was a hero to just a few of them. Now, the drugs, they have like a half-life, which, again, I'm not a medical guru, so do not come for me if I'm saying any of this wrong. My sister is a nurse, however, so she will correct me later. And thanks for watching. But anyway, half-life is how long it would remain, I guess, in your system. So there are certain drugs, they said, that like she could give a certain drug, right, and it would be out of their system before they even did an autopsy. So they wouldn't even know what the cause of death was. Like they just would assume it was whatever was going on at the time with the child, right? So that was like to her advantage that she was medically knowledgeable and advanced enough to know what these half-lives were of which medication. I like my bacon extra crispy, you guys. I cannot stand bacon that's really flimsy and it's just disgusting. It's not all the way cooked. Anyway, back to the story. So, because of what Janine was doing with the heparin, when this hospital in question after this case that they caught her on, any nurse that needed, the doctor changed the rules that any nurse that needed heparin after this was to be escorted by another staff member. So pretty much like if you needed heparin, you weren't trusted or you had to have somebody else go with you. By the way, we have some coffee to go with our breakfast, brunch, whatever you want to call it, and then some water just in case. So Janine ended up resigning from this hospital. And the hospital let her resign after, I guess, like dozens of cases. I mean, when I say dozens, dozens of cases of infants or children dead or not barely hanging on. So the thing about this hospital letting her resign was that they should have let her resign and revoked her license. They didn't do that. They let her resign, and instead, like, she was still medically able to go somewhere else, get another nursing job, do the same thing on repeat. Like, you guys, she is a serial killer of pediatrics. Like, it is crazy. No one knows the name Janine Jones, like, literally. When I was watching this documentary, you know other serial killers in America, right? Like, what, John Gacy, like, just anyone. I can tell you, like, so many of them that we all have studied, all the true crime communities talk about, but, like, where's Janine Jones fall into it? Anyway, it gets me upset because, like, no one really knows about this lady. That's why I'm talking about her. So in 1982, you guys, she went to Kerrville, Texas, which was right up the street from San Antonio, Texas. So she goes up to Kerrville, Texas, right? Now, she goes to this, like, summer camp, because that's really all that was in this area at the time, like, Kerrville, Texas. She goes to a summer camp there because they just opened a clinic and they needed nurses, of course. Of course, your girl applies for the job, right? So she gets the job. The doctor hires her. She gets the job. Well, I don't know, guys, like, a couple weeks into her working at this new job, it did not take long. It only took 8 months from her to get fired from this, well, leave this other hospital and then get hired at this camp. Well, within a matter of weeks, there was an infant that came in at 15 months old. Her name, and this is important, is Chelsea. And her parents came in for a normal checkup that day, okay? Like, regular well baby checkup. And usually in a well baby checkup, you get shots. Like, if they're up for shots and they need them, typically you will get shots, right? So, what does Janine do? Injects Chelsea with a shot. Now, the parents are thinking, okay, it's part of her normal checkup. Like, that usually happens, right? Chelsea starts seizing out right in front of the parents and the nurse. When she starts seizing out, it becomes such important, like, that they get her to the hospital. They call 911. When they called 911, Janine, the nurse, and the parents were in the ambulance, and Janine was holding the baby and trying to, like, I guess, like, help her with the seizure that she was having. While holding the baby, she injects her one more time, and that injection is what ended up killing Chelsea. Chelsea was dead before they got to the hospital. So, that's insane. And you want to know what's even more crazy about this girl, Chelsea? The parents had no idea what was going on at the time, to the point where in the paper, when they put Chelsea's death in the paper, they literally thanked the doctor and the nurse, Janine Jones, like, by name, like, literally named her in the paper, saying how helpful she was, how great they were that they had her, because you see, Janine was really good at disguising being a caring, loving nurse, and really, she was just on to the next victim and trying to do whatever she could to get the next victim. So, Janine did not get away with this, okay? Because what happened is all these other babies went undetected at this time, because in the 70s and the 80s, there was, like, a lot going on financially in America, okay? And there was a lot of low-income families, and their babies did not make it to the paper, like it is today, honestly. There's a lot of cases that don't even make it to the headlines because there's just so many things that happen, you guys. So this family, though, Chelsea's parents, they were well off. So, of course, this was going to be a big deal in the area because they come from a well-known family, right? So without Chelsea, unfortunately, passing, we would have never really caught on to what Janine was doing. This is the case that broke the camel's back, so to say. You know what I mean? So they find out that a couple weeks go by after Chelsea's death, right? She's still working at this camp. Well, the doctor sees one day that there's one of the injection bottles, and it's punctured. Now, I don't know what this medicine is called. I'm sorry. It's a medicine that, like, pretty much numbs your nerve system that only anesthesiologists give. I don't know. Anyway, he notices that there's a puncture on the top of this bottle in particular, and he asked Janine about it. Well, Janine said she doesn't know what happened, so we should just throw it away. That's her suggestion. Just go ahead and get rid of the evidence. No one needs to know. Not really a good idea. So, doctor catches on. Another week goes by. There's a whole nother bottle of the same stuff missing. At this point, the doctor definitely takes it to the authorities. The authorities went to Chelsea's parents and asked permission to exhume her body. And when they exhumed her body, they found this drug that is going on at the time with other patients that she's using and manipulating in Chelsea's system. So this is what ended up killing Chelsea. And this is the reason they were able to get Janine behind bars originally. Okay, so like when they finally did end up locking her up, she was arrested for the murder of Chelsea. Now, the investigation was going on. When the investigation started, Janine attempted suicide. Now, when I say attempted suicide, she knew what she was doing. She left a note. She, on purpose, didn't take enough medicine. Because, you guys, she's a nurse. She knows how to kill somebody. She's done it dozens on dozens of dozens, countless amount of times to all these poor, innocent children, right? So, she literally tries to kill herself. It doesn't work. They take her to the hospital. She pumps her they pump her stomach, and they send her back. They found a note and everything. Like, if it were to work, there was a note. Wow. Sorry, this is really good. When the trial came for Janine, it did not even take the jurors that long to convict her. I think they said it took all of 15 minutes on every ground. However, she was diagnosed. She was diagnosed with Munchausen by proxy. Now, Munchausen syndrome is like when you inflict pain or illness upon yourself. Munchausen by proxy, I understand, Sarah, let me know if I'm right, is when you inflict pain or illness on someone else. They diagnosed her with Munchausen by proxy. This is a real thing, you guys. People actually have this disorder. Now, at this point, she gets sentenced to 99 years. Under parole law, she gets 60 years. Any violent offender, sorry, bacon, so good. Any violent offender that was convicted of any crimes between, I think, let me say, when was it? I think it was between like 1977 and 1987, right? I can't find it. Anybody that was convicted of these crimes during 1987 and 1977, they're subject to something called a mandatory release date, where as long as they have good behavior, they can actually earn time off. So like every single day that they're good in jail, right? If you were locked up between 1977 and 1987, every single day that you're good in jail, you can knock a day off your sentence. So if you're serving a 60-year sentence, you guys, you can just do it in 30 years if you're behaving yourself every single day, which they're saying she's acting like a model citizen. Of course she would, because she wants to, because she wants to get out and she wants to probably try to kill babies again, which is so not fair to all the ones that have already passed. And like, there's this guy on the documentary, his name is Andy Collin. I'm probably saying his name wrong because I always say names wrong, and you've noticed that by now. His name is Andy Collin, right? he is trying to get her to stay in jail longer because he is really not okay with the families that haven't got any justice brought to them in this case, right? Her release date is supposed to be March 1st, 2018. It was supposed to be, which would have only made her serve 33 years, you guys. 33 years. Over 60 documented deaths on her shift, on her name. Only 2 that she is charged with. Let that sink in. If she gets out, which right now, the next part is in September of 2017, just this is why you haven't heard about it, she was being charged with 11 more deaths because they're trying to pin them on her. Like, even if it's been 30 years, so what? Like, she does not deserve to walk free. I hope she rots in there forever because I really thought she should have got the death penalty. Like, I don't know why Texas didn't do that. They're so big on it, you know? So, she's still in jail right now awaiting trial. The last update that I read online was in September of last year, 2019. And they said that when she went to trial, I'm sorry not to laugh because none of it's funny. Like, I'm laughing at the situation, not of her, not all the innocent families and victims. So I apologize for laughing. But when she went to trial, the only thing she had to say for herself was she wanted her Bible back. But with that said, you guys,